Welcome back to the channel, and today I have a special video for you guys. I'm going to be going over this question that I guess asked all the time, and that is, should you be daily driving a third generation Honda Prelude? Now, before I forget anything, obviously on the wrist is a Tag Heuer Aqua Racer. It's the WAY 2112 reference, which is it's honestly really beautiful. The dial is amazing. And obviously, if you do like the content, make sure to drop a like down below, subscribe to see more awesome stuff in the future. But with that out of the way, let's just jump right into the content. So there are 3 reasons why I would say you shouldn't be daily driving a Prelude. Now, disclaimer, I'm not saying that you can't. I'm more or less saying that you shouldn't. So number one thing I would say, and these are in no particular order, is the safety standards. These cars were built to a completely different set of rules per se than modern cars. These cars don't have airbags. Unless I believe there's a very, very rare model in Japan you can get with airbags, but I don't have one here, and most common models do not contain airbags. A lot of people are going to say that we die like real men, we don't need airbags, blah, 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 and stuff like that. They are terrible, they're just for weight, they just, add weight. And I'm going to say there might be some validity to that. They do add weight, and safety equipment isn't light. It makes your car slower, which does suck, but they are there for a purpose. I'm not going to argue the validity of the purpose, but at the same time, I want you to think not just of you, but also of the other people in the vehicle and how it could potentially harm them if you were to get into a car accident. Now, I know that a lot of people would say, "Oh, my driving's perfectly fine. I'm the best driver on planet Earth," which you may or may not be. But I know I am not the best driver on planet Earth. I don't think I'm a terrible driver. Here's the thing. You could have a perfect driving record, perfect everything, and you get hit by a drunk driver or someone running a stop sign or a light or speeding or doing something stupid, stunting, and all of a sudden you're in the hospital and, with crazy injuries, or you might never be able to walk again, or you're dead. You could be dead right. There's that aspect where it's like it doesn't really matter about the other, like you have to think about the other people. You can't just think about just you, because it's not really all about you. There's other idiots out there that you can't control, unfortunately. Okay, so that's enough on point number 1. Point number 2 that I really want to talk about is just the fact of limited availability of parts. And I'm not saying the parts, first of all, that you can't get them. I'm not necessarily just talking about OEM parts. I'm talking about the fact that if I go down to my local parts store, if I want to go down and get parts for this car, I'm looking at out of stock, out of stock, out of stock, out of stock, all over the place. And it pisses me off because, what happens if something breaks on this car and I need it replaced right away? Well, I'm waiting. I have to usually order out of a place like Rock Auto in the States, and I'm waiting at least like two weeks. Now, some people might be like, I can get it really, really, fast. But up here in Canada, I don't necessarily have that luxury. Now, the one thing I really dislike about when people are like, oh, well, parts can be easy to find. I'm like, yeah, parts can be easy to find. Maybe if you have 4 or 5 parts cars sitting in your driveway, but I also don't think people have that luxury to have multiple parts cars just sitting around waiting for you to potentially maybe break something. But yeah, getting parts is just kind of an issue for this car. I'm not even, I would even dive in to say this, there's certain parts that are completely and totally discontinued, which really, really, really suck. And you're basically left to the goodwill of third-party manufacturers to fabricate you these parts again, which, is great when they happen, but you're basically waiting around for this. And I don't think that's really a situation that you want to put your daily driver in. Okay, and the very last thing I want to talk about, and it's kind of a dual point, which blends into point number 2, is that you shouldn't really be necessarily relying on these vehicles as your sole vehicle, and just the cost to maintain them. So what I mean by relying on it as your sole vehicle is that if it does break down, you are without a vehicle. So that means you have to A, take public transit, or B, rely on a taxi. That's pretty expensive, especially when it gets into multiple weeks while you're waiting for parts, or if it's a really, really, specific or rare part that you can't get your hands on. You could be, without a car for quite some time. And I don't think most people have that luxury, and that really, really sucks. The other thing I want to talk about is cost to maintain. A lot of these cars, especially for people that, and I'm sorry, I'm going to make this judgment, but a lot of people that are coming into this, I would say the third generation Prelude game, they purchase these vehicles thinking that they are going to be cheap, different fun compared to a Civic or an Integra. The problem is that most of these people, a lot of the chassis that I'm seeing have been neglected for some time, being purchased by said people, and they don't want to pay the money that is needed to actually, you know, restore it. What I'm seeing a lot of is, and now mind you, this car is 30 years old, right? 30 plus years old. So what do you think needs to be changed to these? Most of these cars have well over 200,000 kilometers on them. I'm not saying that they're not reliable. In fact, these cars are extremely reliable, but in the off chance that you need parts, things need to be replaced. Bodies are rusting out, making them no longer necessarily as safe. It's just, they haven't been maintained. A lot of people don't maintain them. They buy them thinking about go fast parts, slap a couple, you know, slap an aftermarket exhaust on it, that a custom exhaust or whatever, you know, try and make an intake, blah, blah, blah. Or once they realize that they can't go as fast as they want for as cheap as they want, then they flog the car. And it's unfortunate because these cars are amazing cars, but they're not cheap to maintain because most owners haven't been maintaining them outside of, you know, the few people that have been. But it's like, you need to get in the mindset of starting to treat it more like a classic car rather than just a daily car. And I think, can you daily drive a classic? Yeah, if you're willing to put the money into it. And I think that the cost is just an inhibitor and kind of prohibits people, or not prohibits, but inhibits people from wanting to do this because it costs so much to, like, you know, fully restore them. And when you're operating on a very small budget, it's just not likely to happen. And that's where I said, if you can afford to have another vehicle as kind of the backup car, then that's where that comes into place, where you can drive it whenever you want, but you always have something else to rely on. But anyways, that's kind of where I'm leaving it off. Otherwise, I'm going to keep rambling on. But anyways, obviously, if you did like the video, make sure to drop a like down below, subscribe to see more awesome stuff in the future, and just kind of a clarity thing. Obviously, these are my own opinions. It is a disclaimer. These are my own opinions, and if you don't like them, that's okay, but I just expressed my opinions. Hopefully, you did learn something. But anyways, take care, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you later.